Hello, everyone. This session here, I would like to go over as much as possible about how to solve the challenging practice test for your programming test number 3, which I released on the E-class. Okay, so let's now just treat it like an actual test and see how you should really solve it. I think the beginning steps are the most crucial, which I will definitely go over in very detail together with you. And then there might be some methods that'll be much easier to solve, which I don't have to explain too much. But there might be some more challenging method which I can maybe pause a little bit more to help you. But I'll try to restrict the session within 90 minutes. Otherwise, it might be too long for everybody. All right. So for those of you who want to type along with me, you can just go to your E-class site, go to NMO, all right, and go under the practice test, right? And then simply go to practice test number 3, example programming test number 3, right? And then in your case, you can just attempt. For me, I'll just say preview, right? Just in my case. All right. You can look at the PDF. It's going to be the same in the actual test, just talking about how you can export and import. For that one, I'm not going to bother you. You can look at it yourself. Download this zip, practice test 3. And then let me save that to the desktop. Oh, I already got it, actually. I just want to show you how you can find it. Okay, good. Very good. All right, so now I already got it on my desktop. So what I would do is I can simply choose whatever workspace I like, and then I'll launch Eclipse. Okay. And feel free to interrupt me by speaking up, right? It's really, the session is really for you, right? So you shouldn't just let me talk. All right, I would say File, Import, and then existing projects, and then I'll simply choose the zip, right? It's already there, the path, right? And then choose that one and finish. So this will be the same formats for the actual test next week, okay? So I think the first step is always the most important, okay? Let me just go over that together with you, okay? So you got tests over here. So that's actually a JUnit test with some description. We'll read it together. And also we got a number of test cases over here. So number of test cases 32 because individually they are very small, but compared with in your actual lab, each one of the tests is actually longer, much longer. So that's why the number of tests is actually smaller. So more or less the same. All right, so I would say this. Let me point to you about the study references if you want to do some last minute study over the weekend and also early next week. You should really make sure you read over the notes which we have been referring you to since a few weeks ago. Number one, you want to make sure you understand the principle about how to infer the Java classes and methods from this PDF, right? So we talk about this since lab number 5. And also this particular written notes, which is about how you actually do the multi-value reference type attributes, point and point collector. And let me say this, I can give you some tip for the programming test next week. Pay special attention to this particular accessor method called getPoint in Trojan1. So the solution pattern for that particular method there actually can be applicable to so many problems that we require you to solve, either in the actual test or maybe later in the exam. So please make sure you go over this getPoints in Trojan1 very carefully. That one there is also explained in your week number 8 lecture. You can also see the video. And if you really want some extra explanation, please ask me on Monday Q&A. I'll be happy to go over again. But you got to do the work first before I help you. All right. Okay, that's about the tip. And then let me say one more thing. Okay, and then about the workflow. And let me just go to go back to your E-class website. Okay, and then I want to show you one more fragment of text before I start solving the problem. If you go to your programming test number 3 guide from the E-class, right? I'm sure many of you have read it. And I want to focus on this particular segment over here about your expected workflow. Let me go over that together with you very quickly, and then I'll implement that right away in front of you, okay? So step number 1, you can see basically the Eclipse we got over here, we got lots of compilation error, you can see, right? So you can see we're importing all the classes from the model package, but at the moment, model package is simply just empty, right? So that's why I got so many compilation error. That's kind of expected to begin with. And the recommended workflow will be step number 1, we want to eliminate all the compilation errors. To do it, you have to make sure you master this document here from since lab 5 about inferring JUnit method, inferring classes and methods from the JUnit test. I'll do that together with you. Okay. And for step number 2, it will be about once we don't have any compilation errors, and then you got all the methods and all the classes declared properly, you will have to add in private attributes and maybe helper methods if you wish. And then you can eventually pass all the test cases. But I would say pass one test at a time. Okay, that's something we'll see as much as possible. Okay, guys, can you hear me? All right. Michael said he can hear me. Can I just get some confirmation? Okay, okay, very good. Wow. So I think your fellow student, oh, sorry, I'm not sure about your name over here. It's not okay. You know what? If you not really cannot hear, oh, actually, you cannot hear. That's why you wouldn't. Let me just type this. If you can't hear, please try to rejoin. Okay. All right. So guys, that's about the workflow over here. I want you to understand, and then I'm going to illustrate that together with you right away. All right. Let me go back here. Let me come back here. And so now for the next maybe 10 minutes or so, I'm just going to show you how you can get rid of all the compilation errors following the following systematic process. Okay. Principle number 1. How can we get rid of errors like this? You can see for this particular variable assignments, you can see on the left-hand side, we are declaring variable R1 to be of type record. However, it's saying that if you move your error mouse over, record cannot be resolved to be a type. So that's suggesting the class doesn't exist just yet. So we can remove this kind of error by just creating the class accordingly. Okay, so let's do it right away. So I'm not going to scan from top to the bottom to see all the left-hand side to see which one actually need to be created. So the first one will be record. So I will right-click on the model package and say new class record. Okay, so that'll be first. You can see after that, the error goes away, right? This one's easy. And then go down. The next one will be customer, right? This one here. To resolve it, right-click, and then you say class customer. And then go back to the test. You can see that one also goes away, right? Let me move down. And then you can see, let's see if there's anything else. Michael, you want to say something?
Yes, I just want to quickly ask, how are you able to create the class and it automatically imports it into the JUnit test?
I think, okay, so here's the thing. So if you look at the JUnit test that's given to you, you can see that one is already import model.star. So that means all the classes that you will create into the model package, they will be imported automatically. So that's for your convenience. So we'll keep that for the actual test. So you don't have to worry about adding individual lines for yourself. You don't need to.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. It's good that you ask. Okay, let's go on. So guys, in case I don't really see your questions on the chat, so please just interrupt by speaking up. Otherwise, you might just be delayed in receiving my response. Just speak up. So after the customer, okay, let's see anything else. I'm just skimming through quickly. Okay, we are very close to the button. There might be more. I think there's another one, right? We got customer, we got record. There is another one called shop over here, right? You can see this one here, right? Line number 340, shop. So we just need to create one more. New, and then class. Of course, you got to make sure to be the safest, you may just want to copy the name and then paste it when you create a class, right? Just make sure there's no spelling mistake. I believe that's all the left-hand side that got errors, so now we fix them all. So now the next step will be we want to do a second pass over here, and then we're going to basically declare within those 3 classes over here, either record or customer or shop over here, right? We're going to include either constructor or accessor or mutator. That's what we will do. And for constructor, it will be straightforward because for any call using a new keyword, we will know it's actually constructor. That's a principle we learned also in the tutorial and also in the lecture. That'll be easy to solve. For the accessor and mutator, I will get a little bit more detail in some illustration. I will get there, okay? Let's see this. This one here, it just tells me I'm calling some constructor over here. And remember, the constructor name must be the same as the class name. So that means this constructor must belong to the record class. Hopefully you agree. So this is only one example. What I'm highlighting here, this is only an example usage for the constructor. But you want to define some general definition in the template in the class. So let's do that one step at a time. So let me just copy this line over here. And I should go to the record class, right? You can see so far we got record, customer, and shop. Every time when I introduce a new method, I need to know precisely which context of the class I should go into. In this case, I should go into record, right? So I go into record over here. It's simply empty, but that's okay. So what I will do is, let me maximize it. I will simply paste it like that, okay, just to start with. I know that this is supposed to be a constructor. So I'll say public constructor and no return type for the constructor. And then it's going to be some parameters over here. So we can now see, since it's a string literal, so the corresponding type for the parameter should be a string. Let me just say S over here. I can change the name later. And then 2.5 is actually a double, right? It's with a fractional point, decimal point. So I can say double, maybe D. And integer 4, integer, and I. You can think about this part here. Based on the usage, I can reverse engineer about what the definition should be, right? It's basically what's covering the PDF. So now if you go back to the tests over here, you can see this part here is done as far as compilation is concerned, all right? And now let me illustrate a little bit. I think for all the methods, you can see we're not using the new keyword anymore. So that means the method here can either be accessor or mutator. So now we need to follow some principle, which I'll try to illustrate now. Okay, let's now go on to this one here. Okay, so we are already done. So this part is already done completely, right? We created a class and also created a constructor. So how do we figure out for these three? Let me just highlight them. You can see this one over here, this one over here, and also this one over here. So first of all, we have to know for these three methods, we got get item with no parameter, and also get price without any parameter, and also get quantity without any parameter, right? That's what we know. But where should we put these three methods into? Which class should we choose? Should it be record? Should it be customer? Or should it be shop, right? So let me just open the discussion just for this one here. Can anybody tell me how you can tell where to put these three methods? Okay, I can see from, okay, very good. Guys, very good. Okay, so for those of you who are not too sure, look at the context objects. You can see the context objects R1 over here, the same R1 is being used. And then once you see the context object here, look up the type for the context objects. R1 was declared to be record. So that means this method over here, get item, get price, and also get quantity must come from the record class, right? Number one. The type, I'll go a little bit slower in the beginning, but I'll speed up later. So the type is going to be record. So that tells me that all the method, the invoke method should go there. So this is a very important principle for you to remember. Should go there. All right, and then let's talk about whether they should be accessors or mutators. According to your lecture week number 7, right? We basically talk about in the case of accessor, you can use their return, you can use the method call expression as a value. And here, since we assert equals, in principle, we're comparing value against value. Specifically, we're comparing string against another value, and they should be compatible. So that means this should be a string value, right? So this part over here should be just another string, right? String and string, green latte. So that should be a string. And also, we are comparing 2.5 against the method call to this. So we know that the return type on this accessor should be double. And also, we're comparing against 4 without the decimal points. So that means this should be actually a method that returns integer. Okay, hopefully so far so good.
I have a really quick question.
Go ahead.
So you didn't import each of the classes from the model separately, right? You didn't
Yeah.
change that import statement.
Yeah, so you don't have to, as Michael just asked over here, you can see we actually put a line here. We say import model package dot star. The star here simply means everything from the model package. So whatever you put into the model package, they will be imported automatically.
So I left it like that, but for some reason, like all of my tests are still red.
I'm not too sure about your code specifically. Could be that you made some spelling mistake. Maybe I can take a look, maybe offline, maybe later. But that's the
Okay, for
principle.
sure.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Okay, guys. Hopefully no questions so far. I'm gonna follow the same principle. Okay, let me recap very quickly so I don't need to repeat later. Whenever you look at if the method call is actually being used, it's a value to be compared against something else. In that case, it should be an excessive call, right? So, and then what should be the return type? You should look at what's the value being compared against. In this case, if there's a string literal, so that should be a string type, right? And also double and also integer. And also, where should this method go into? That's also critical. If you put the method in the wrong class, it's not going to help for the compilation error resolution. So here we're going to look at the type for the context object, which you can look up over here, right? Okay, having said this, we will now know what to do, right? Let's do one by one. For this particular one over here, we know that R1 that get price, right? R1 is a record. So I should really simply get item. Let's start from get item first. So I should really go to the record class over here and define some excessive get item, which should return a string to be compared against. So I should say I should go to the record and then, so nothing to do with attribute just yet, right? It will be the second step. So I would say public string and also get item. And then for accessor, you should always return something. But for it's really up to you. I think if there's reference type, you can simply say return null just to begin with. If there's a primitive type, you can give its default value. Right? We also talk about default values in the lecture. Let me go back to the tests over here. And what about get price? It should be an accessor method also in the record, and that should return the double. Right? Let's go back there. And I would say public double get price. And then you cannot say return null anymore because double is a primitive type. So I would say maybe return -1. So that'll be okay. Okay. I just want to get compilation errors away. And the final one will be get quantity also in the record class, but you should be returning integer record. Public integer get quantity over there and return -1, right? And you can see all the compilation error as far as test 1 is concerned goes away, right? But we want to do this quickly for every other test as well. Okay, let's continue, okay? All right, so this one here, you can see this error here is about constructor with a new keyword. So that means we just need another overloaded version of the record constructor, right? With no parameter. Let's go back to record over here. So the second version, let's say public record over here, like that. Okay, and you can see that one goes away as well, right? Let's go move on. And you can see here, we got 3 methods over here. Again, you can see where should we put them into. R2 is a type record, the context object. So we should add in another 3 methods into record. But now, should it be accessor or mutator, right? The principle we spoke about in the lecture. If the methods are only calling them, are being called alone without being used as a value, either to print them out or to compare against some other value or to be assigned to some variable. In that case, they should be mutator, returning void. So that's a principle we also spoke about, right? So here we got set item, which will take some string. We got set price, which will take some double. And also we got set quantity, which will take some integer, right? So if you don't mind, let me copy these 3 lines so I can do it at one go. Let me go back to the record, right? Still the record class, like that. So these are the usages. So I would say public void, and then it should be taking a string. Let me just say S for now. But if you like, since we say set item, so you can feel free to name this as item if you wish. But I'll just say S for now. Okay, a string. And then the next one here would be also public void set a price to be some double value. So I would say double D. and then set quantity. So I would say public void set quantity over here, integer I. Okay, for the mutators, you don't need to give any body of implementation. It will just compile. Okay, it just does nothing. All right, so now we're also done with the compilation error here. And let's move on. You can see now we now should really move to another class, right? The constructor for the customer, right? So the record may be done for compilation just for now. So let me just close it. Okay. So now we got a new customer over here. So now we should really define the constructor for this. So let's go to customer, following the same principle. So new public customer. So this will be a string. It looks like a name. So maybe you say name. And then, oh, by the way, something I haven't done. You can also do it yourself when you redo the practice test. So this is a problem description for this particular test over here. It's about a coffee shop, with a shop, with a customer, and also with a record, like an order. So you can read it when you do the exercise, but I'm just going to skip that part. I'll leave that to you. All right. Let me go back to where we were. I think we were here, right? Okay, so let's go back to customer. So this 150, I can just say double, but it's actually a balance. I would just say double V. Okay, so that's a constructor. And then, so now you can see Alan, the context object is of a different type, which is customer, right? So now we should really put into customer. Right? And then we can actually put the get name and get balance, right? What should be the return type for get name? It should be a string. And what about get balance? It should be double, right? Let me just copy these to the customer class. Okay, I'm gonna convert them one by one, massage them. The first one, we're gonna say public, and then we're gonna say return a string, get name. Alan is just one example. So return no. Okay, this line done. And then what about the next one? The next one will just be another accessor, which will be get balance over here. And then it should be returning a double. Right? Okay, so I'm going to do that. Public double get balance. Either you can type or you can just copy and paste the name. Return -1. All right, let me go back to, actually, you know what? This is somehow not necessary. You should not really need an assertion for the model classes. Somehow it would just get imported there, so I can get rid of it. All right, so now this part is done. Let me move on to number 5. So we just need another overloaded version constructor for the customer class, right? Let's go to customer and put it here. So that one takes a string only, right? As opposed to the previous version with also double, right? Oh, sorry. And then over here, I can say public customer, and then I can say string, and then let's say S, or you can say name, doesn't matter. Okay, you just say S here. Go back here, and then that one's done, right? And then we need just another one. So this one here, I might need a little bit of attention here, right? This, let me go to test number 6. Okay. So now, what should we do for this particular test? Let's take a look. First of all, you can see the context object Alan over here is of type customer. So that means this particular method get records should be put into the customer class, number 1. Number 2, it should be taking no parameters, right? Number 3, it should be an accessor because the whole method call is being used as a value to be assigned to something else on the left-hand side, right? So that should be an accessor. And then what should be the return type for this particular accessor? So the type for the variable being assigned to tells you what the return type should be, right? So that means we have to get something like this. We're going to say public and also return this particular type, record array, and then get records. And there'll be no names, sorry, no parameters over here. And then you can simply put some default definition return null. All right. So that's how I work it out. Let's go back here. And then I will simply just get records, right? And let me go back to customer over here. and then I can say public record array get records, and I can simply return none. I'll fix it the implementation later. All right. So guys, any questions so far? So far so good, right?
Professor,
Michael, yes.
I just had a quick question. Like, I just wonder, like how much emphasis would you put on the beginning instructions? Because, like, sometimes, like I look at the text and think, like, well, I gotta read a lot before I can even start.
Oh, you mean the problem over here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Michael, is a good question. I would say the following. So the first thing you should do is to really get rid of all the compilation errors, like what I'm doing right now. And then once you get no compilation errors by declaring all the classes and methods, and then you can read the problem description. Just skim it through so you understand what the logic you're really supposed to implement, right? So I would say don't really read the problem description at first, because if you did it after you fix all the compilation errors, you might just forget about the details, right? So that's just some strategy over here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. And notice one thing, guys. I think all the implementation I put over here are just default. I just want the compilation to work. And then once all the compilation errors go away, none of the tests should really pass. But at least I got no compilation errors. And then I will add in the implementation. Okay. All right, let's move on. Okay. I think we've here. So now this one here, you can see we should do another method in customer, right? You can see the context object Alan is in the customer. And it seems like we're using the method call as a value to be assigned to some variable. Okay, you can see the variable type is actually double. So that means this method call, this method here should return a double, right? That's how I figure out. So get amount due, I should really go to the customer class, and then I should really say public double get amount due, return -1. Okay, you can see that one goes away, right? So it's really so crucial that you know about the context object over here and look up its type, so you would know where to put it. If you put, for example, hypothetically, if you declare the right type for get amount due, however, you put it in the wrong class, let's say shop, then it wouldn't help with the compilation error, right? So you got to be very careful. All right, let's now move on. I think, okay, the next one, you can see sometimes once you fix one compilation error, you actually fix quite many test cases at the same time, right? The next one to fix would be line number 136 over here. So now we got mark in the class of customer, right? Customer class, and this seems to be standing alone, so that should be a mutator, returning void. And it's called deposit, and it's taking some double value. You can see 200.0. That's also like a hint to you. All right, so we should go to customer over here, and then we'll say public deposit over here, and double D over here. All right, oh, should be void, of course, because it's a mutator, so it should be void. Let's go back. And then we also the add record over here, right? You can see also again Alan, so that'll be customer, and add record will just be some mutated method. And once you, to be honest with you, when you actually see a method with similar name, like add record, maybe add member, add whatever, you will see that it's really corresponding to the programming pattern in the written notes about add points or add member that we did in the tutorial video, right? Let's go back to customer over here, and then we will do, you know what, let me just make some space over here. So that should be public void, and then, okay, add record. And now what should be this type? Let's take a look. You can see the type over here is argument is R1. R1 is of type record. So that means we should declare add record to take record as a parameter. Okay, hopefully, let me be more explicit about this particular one. 11. So if you take a look at over here, R1, so this is the argument, right? R1 was declared over here. So this one tells you that you should really do add record. Of course, it's a mutator. It doesn't return anything. And then R1 tells you that you should really take a record. And you can say R, for example, right? And that's how you declare that mutator method. Okay. Let me go back and then add record. Let me just copy that. and go to customer, and also make sure, please make sure you save the file every time you make some change. So add record is going to got record R. And then let's go back to the tests over here. Let's move on. Okay, we got another add record, right? You can see it's an overloaded version. The one we just sorted was this version over here, taking just record objects. But this one here, just taking sufficient information for you to create maybe some record object internally. That's also something we did in the tutorial video, right? Why don't we try this one as well? So this one also should be added to the Alan's declared type, which is customer. Let's go to customer over here. And then over here, we'll say public void add record, right? And the first type should be string s. The second one, 1.5 is double. And 7 is integer, I. Okay, that's add record. All right, so this one's done. So far, so good. And we got another one here because it's called add records. And where should it belong to? Alan, the context object tells you it should be customer, right? We should add another method to customer. And what should be the parameter type? Orders over here is simply an array of record, right? Hopefully you can see it, right? So now the parameter should be an array. Let me go to 16 over here to make some notes over here. You can see here, when you look at this, context object Alan is customer. So we should add a method to customer. The orders over here is of type record array, right? That's how we declare that. So correspondingly, what we should do is in the customer class, we should really define public void is a mutated method. It stands alone. And also add records. And then over here is going to be a record array, and then maybe OS, doesn't matter. Okay, that's what you should do. Let's go back to, so let me just copy this add records over here. Let me go to the customer over here. And then I would say public void. And then, so that should be a record array, right? I can keep the name orders over here. That's fine. Okay. Go back here. Okay, that one's done. Let's see anything else, right? We're moving on to the end, I think. You can see many things have been solved already. Okay. Okay, again, what about Alan? Alan, again, is a customer. We just need another method here. So that should get records larger than, taking some integer. Okay. And then what should it return? It's being compared against an array over here. Expected is simply an array of record, right? So let me go to 23. So now if you take a look at here, so Alan context objects of type customer. So it should be added to the customer class. And then the method over here, it should be get records larger than. So that's really the actual method to add in. And it's now being compared against some value over here in the assertion. So it should be an accessor. But what should be its return value? You can look at the expected over here. Expected is declared to be an array of record, right? So that should be the return type. All right. So in conclusion, in the customer class, we should really add this particular accessor. So we will say public, and the return type should be matching the value we are comparing against, which is record array. And then the name over here. So get records larger than. Of course, you don't need to jot this note. I just want to make it explicit for you. And then it's going to take an integer, maybe I, for example, right? So that'll be the declaration you need to work out. All right, let's go back to this one. Let me just copy this line over this phrase over here. Let's go to customer. Public, and we already know it should be returning a record and then get records larger than. So this will be integer I, let's say. And it's a reference type over here for the return type. So we can say return null. Okay, like that. All right, let's go back to here. And then I think we are done for everything related to customer as well. Let me close it. So now one more class to handle, shop. Okay, you can see the context object Hollies over here of type shop. So we should really add get customers into the shop, right? Let's do that. So get customers should be taking those parameters, and then we should add into Hollies. And what should be the return type? We have done this. It's going to be customer array, right? So that'll be the return type. Let's go to the shop, and then we're going to say public customer array, and then get customers return null, right? So far, we haven't seen anything about the constructor for the shop, right? So, but remember, one thing you should also remember, we actually illustrated this in week number 6 when we first introduced to you when we introduced you to OOP. If you don't declare any constructor in the class, there will be some default constructor that will be called, right? However, I would say in principle, you shouldn't really just leave the default constructor implicit. You may just want to declare that yourself, right? So even though the compilation error is not really suggesting this, but I would suggest you put it first. Otherwise, you may just forget to actually initialize some attribute value later. So let me just put it now, okay? So I can say public shop over here, just constructor, all right? Let's see anything else. Okay, we got add customer over here, right? So that should be in the context object for Hollies, which is shop. And then mark is of type customer, right? So that means in the shop class, we should really create this mutator is standing alone that will add customers into it, right? Let's go to the shop, and I'm going to say public void add customer, and mark should be a customer. C, for example. All right, and then let's go back to the tests over here. All right, we got this one here. You can see again the context object. Okay, so for this one here, the context object Hollies, which is of type. If you look at Hollies, it's type shop. So we should add another method to shop, and this one should be a mutated method, and it's called pay. And then what should be the type for this particular arguments, right? Alan.getName. If you actually look back, right, you can look it back. This is the getName method. Is something we did already. It's in the customer. If you just go to the customer, let me show you. If you go to the customer class over here, getName will return a string, right? So that means the pay should really take a value parameter for string type. That's what we should do. All right. So let's now go for the pay over here, and let's go to go to shop, right? So make sure you go to the right class. String and pay. Oh, actually, that's void. Sorry, it's a mutator. String, maybe some name over here. And then nothing to put, it's a mutator. All right, let's now go back to the tests over here. All right, I think there's no more compilation errors, right? Up to now, it's been 40 minutes. However, I've been talking, explaining, right? And also, maybe but also I'm also moving on my iPad, so I might be a little bit slower. But when you do it, if you follow this principle, hopefully you'll be faster than 40 minutes, maybe about 20 or so. Okay, questions. I'll take questions before I start doing some implementation. Michael, go ahead.
Oh, I think you just answered it. Like I'm just wondering, like, what you expect us to be able to get, like how fast you expect us to get this part done.
Okay, I would say it would be reasonable to say within 20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay.
Yeah, 20 minutes or so. 20 minutes, and then maybe you'll spend another 10 to 15 minutes to read over the. So Salmons, you don't really need to type as fast as I need to. I will definitely consider the 2 hours you're given. So don't worry, but I think you will rather be over prepared, for the test rather than under prepared, right? So that's why I gave you some challenging one. So the actual test may require maybe fewer methods to be implemented, right? So I would say just focus on what you really need to do and then practice with a challenging task. I think that's really the best way you can get prepared. All right. All right. So that's about the first step. Any more questions? Yeah, as I said, you should really follow through this workflow. That's what I would recommend. This particular notes from your guide. Step number 1, you should really try to eliminate all the compilation errors, because eventually, at the end of the day, when you actually submit your code for grading, we will first try to see if your code, your submitted classes will compile with the JUnit test. If you got any compilation error, you will receive some penalty for that, right? You don't want to have that penalty. So you want to spend the first 20 minutes or so to really, how to say, to really get rid of all the compilation errors. Uma, do you know where to get more practice? I would say, why don't you focus on this one first? I think this one's rather challenging for you to do. So I think that one can definitely help, right? So Michael, I wish I, yeah, you know, it's good to pay attention to the guide right now, right? So every PDF I gave to you is really a purpose for that, right? How many questions do we have? I don't know yet, but I don't think your actual test is the first one. It will not be more, it will not. That's something you can take my word for that. It will not be more challenging than the practice step. It will not be. Okay, it's your first one. All right, so guys, as long as you can solve problems like a practice test, you will get something no more difficult than that. Okay. Can I post the lab 6 solution on Monday? Yes, I can, definitely. All right, guys, any more question about the first step to get rid of the compilation error? Any more questions? Anybody? All right. So now, let's now, well, since we got maximum 45 minutes to really explain the stuff, right? So let me, guys, I think it will be more efficient use of your time, right? Let me say the following, okay? I can tell you that the implementation part, unless you want to stop me for more explanation, I'll be willing to do that. Otherwise, I think the implementation part is quite standard. I'll illustrate to you why it is standard. Make sure you really understand the written notes over here conceptually, because the actual test may not be just about point or point collector, right? And then let's just do one by one quickly, all right? And let's now, okay, I'll let you read the description for the problem. Okay, maybe you want to rehearse again, okay? All right, let's now do the first one, right? If I simply just now say tests over here and then run it, nothing passed, right? Of course. Let's see what we can do. This one here, by reading it, right, I know that once I set up the item and also price and also the quantity, and then I can really retrieve them accordingly. So that means all I need to do is to really define the attributes in that class, and also to make sure that constructor will initialize them, and then I can pass this test, right? So Michael, you may have a question, but let me finish this one first before I get to your question. Okay. So to solve this one here, we need to make sure my constructor can really properly initialize all the attributes corresponding to item, corresponding to price, and also corresponding to quantity. That's what I would do. So let me just do one class at a time. Let me go to the record. Let me declare some attributes over here. So I would say private item. Actually, that will be a string, of course. And also private double price, right? You can see I work it out from there, right? You can see the price should be a double, right? And also quantity should be an integer, right? Private integer quantity. Okay, so now I can simply initialize them. So here it's up to you. If you want to rename them, feel free. I can say item over here instead. I can say price, and I can say over here quantity. Okay, I just do the initialization. This item is assigned to item. This price is assigned to price. This quantity is assigned to quantity. Go back here. That's basically what this test is really asking for. So now if I simply rerun the test, I got this one is not, oh, I haven't, that one only initialized the attribute. I haven't really implemented get item, get price, and also get quantity just yet, but I should do that now, right? If I go back to record, you can see get item over here, just return this dot item. How about get price? This dot price. And this dot quantity. And let me rerun the test again. You can see I passed 2 tests already, right? Michael, question.
Oh, you know what? Maybe I am jumping the gun with this question, but I'm just wondering, like, I realized doing lab 6 that you don't have to make everything an attribute. Like, for example, like different string outputs are not actually attributes. They're just outputs from accessor methods. Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, how you're able to understand that.
You know, yeah. I would say it kind of depends, because you can see the item over here, get item. Well, if you look at constructor, that's really the main hints. We said that constructor, typically when we talk about design for parameters, constructors are really meant for initializing the relevant attributes. So here, since we pass one value, second value, and third value, each value should be stored into the corresponding attributes. And one name should the next 3 accessor method actually tells you what the name you may want to use. You can see the get item over here is supposed to return green tea latte, which is actually the first input over here to the constructor. And also get price is supposed to return 2.5, which is what you initialize over here in the constructor. So that's how I work it out.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. Thank you.
Okay, good. Yeah. So we are now done with 1, 2, and let's go to number 3. Okay. So now for number 3, if I double click on that, you can see I'm failing this particular one over here, right? This one is rather, okay, I shouldn't say rather easy. Let's take a look. Okay. You can see we are calling another version for the record constructor. If I go to record here, you can see that one there is simply does nothing, meaning that it does not actually initialize any attributes. It does not. So that's why by default, item will just be null. Price will just be 0.0. Quantity will just be 0. However, after calling these 3 mutated methods, we actually can set the green tea latte to be the attribute value, so that when we say get item over here, it will return green tea latte. And similarly, once we set a 2.5 by calling this mutator method over here, then when we say get price, it can return also 2.5 and etc. So that means we should really get done for these 3 mutated methods as well, which is just to change the value for the attributes, pretty much like a set weight, set height for the person class that we did. Let's go to the record class over here. You can see set item. I can say this dot item is assigned to S, right? And also this dot price is assigned to D. This dot quantity is assigned to I, right? You can see the record class itself does not involve any it does not involve any array attributes just yet. All right, let's now try to do JUnit test again. We're still failing. Okay, you can see test number 3 actually is passing, right? You can see test 3 also pass. Okay, we should now go to test number 4. Okay, test number 4 is about customer, right? You can see something very similar. So now we just need to implement get name and get balance in a very similar way. So we just need to set a name and set a balance over here, right? Let's go to, so record is done. Let's go to the customer, right? So now we should really make sure that we actually can properly return the get name and also get balance properly, right? Let's now declare. We can say string, the name, and also double the balance, right? How do I know? I can simply see this. This should be one attributes in the constructor. The constructor will initialize. this should be the second attribute that it should initialize. And the Alan should really correspond to something about the name for the customer. And this value here should be something to do with the balance, right? Let's go back here. And then I can say this dot name is assigned to name. And also this dot, let me say balance is assigned to balance. I can simply just change this parameter here to be balanced, right? And then for get name, we can do in a very similar way as we did for the record. I can return this dot name. And for balance, I can say return this dot balance over here. Right? If I run it, now I've passed 5 tests already. All right, guys, any questions up to now conceptually? Any questions? All right. So let's now move on to number 6 over here. So for number 6, okay. So Alan records over here is about get records, right? So let's just say we gradually want to pass more and more tests, okay? So this one here is saying that when I first create a customer, with a name and also balance, if you read the problem description, you can infer that whenever you're returning some first created customer, their records list will just be empty, right? In that case, you can simply, that's why in the very beginning, Alan records will just be empty. So that's simply 0. So I would say just as a workaround, that's what I can do. I can simply go to customer over here. And then if I go to get records, right? That's really the method we would like to fix. However, I would suggest try not to be so focused on just the test itself. You want to know what's really the problem you're trying to solve, right? So I would suggest the following. Okay, that will move you a little bit faster. Let's take a look. Let's read the problem description a little bit together. Okay, you can see when we say a coffee shop has a list of up to 100 customers. So whenever I say that a class will actually store a collection of objects, so you should really link right away to the programming pattern that we spoke about, right? About having an array of objects and also have the corresponding integer counter. So that's something we set in detail for week number 8 tutorial videos, right? And then that's about the coffee shop that should store an array. And also for the customer, you should also store an array of maybe order records, right? The record objects. That's what you should do. And then that's up to 30. So that's really the maximum capacity that we need for this particular customer, right? So let's, so this will be up to 30. So what I should do is I should really program the pattern right away over here. And that was pretty standard. So what I will do is I'm going to say, and of course, all the attributes should be private. But I would say in the test, if you didn't declare it as private, it's not such a big issue because we only focus on the tests. Let's say, what about a programming pattern? We want to say private, and eventually we want to store a list of record for each customer, right? So we can say record over here, array records, and then the associated integer counter, integer number of records, like that. And you should also know what the corresponding initialization should be, right? We also spoke about it in the tutorial and the written notes. So what we can do here is we can simply say this dot records is simply assigned to new record array. And what should be the maximum size, right? If you go back to the problem description, up to 30 current order, right? So that number should be 30. You can do what you did in the lab. You can in the tutorial, you can also define some constant value for that, but I'll leave that to you. Okay. And also you can explicitly say this dot NOR is simply assigned to 0 over here, right? And you can also copy these 2 lines. So that's a standard initialization you should do, right? And also for this particular constructor, since you're passing the name over here, you should really also assign the name to this particular string, right? I just can do that. All right, and then let's now move on a little bit further, and I need to talk about this method specifically. So the one I want to get past is number 6 over here about get records. Okay, get records over here. Let me so this one here is supposed to return the an array of record that corresponding to how many records that have been added to the array, right? Let's take a look. This is test number 6 over here, right? However, I would like to go a little bit forward about what you should do. And let's do the implementation right for the first time. Okay, let's think about at the runtime. At the runtime, let's say we got some customer over here, C. Let's say Alan. So Alan is actually a customer objects. And then the customer object actually got, the various attributes. Let's say we got the records, I would say RS, the records array. That one there is going to point to an array of size 30. Okay, that's going to be maybe 0 and also 1 and then 2 and so on up to and including 29. And also we got also number of records. And let's say at the moment, let's say somewhere in the runtime, right? That's also something we did in the tutorial week number 8. Let's say this is pointing to maybe some record objects, right? And this is pointing to just another record objects and also pointing to just another record objects. Okay, so NOR will just be 3. Okay, so the get records over here, its intention is kind of similar but simpler than the get points in Trojan number 1, right? So let me visualize that and then we'll know how to implement it. What we want to return is simply not, if you simply just return, for example, if I simply say Alan.rs conceptually, this is not the array to return, because if you just return it, there'll be so many null slots over here. So that's not the correct array to return. We ought to return an array of size simply corresponding to the number of records over here. And then, so something like this. It could be something called result array, which will be pointing to an array of size corresponding to 3 over here, NOR. And then, so that'll be 0, 1, and 2. And you want to make sure slot 0 pointing to wherever 0 here is pointing to, and also 1 here is pointing to wherever 1 here is pointing to, like that. And also 2 is pointing to wherever this one is pointing to, right? That's something we did similar also in the lab and also tutorial videos. Any question about the conceptual illustration over here about get registration? Get records, sorry. So for the get records over here, eventually you want to return a result array like this, which whose length will just correspond to the value for the number of record or whatever integer counter you have. And then each of its element should really store the corresponding addresses that's actually stored so far in the arrays over here. That's what we should do. All right, let's now go back to the get records, right? I already explained the rationale, but you can definitely review this again and also make sure you go over get points in Trojan 1. So that'll be the main thing to really look at. Okay, let me now go back to customer over here, get records. Let's see what we can do, right? So you can see eventually I want to return a record type array. Let's say result is assigned to new record over here. Size should be this.nor, right? The counter value. And then eventually I want to return the result. So now how do I copy? How do I copy over maybe, for example, the 0 index slot should copy over the address for 0 index of the RS array, records array. So anybody? So Michael, you have a question.
Oh, I just wanted to quickly interject because Somes was wondering in chat, when will this recording be released? Because
I'll try
I think a few, yeah.
I'll try to
because
post the video after this is done. So hopefully later tonight, I'll try.
Yeah, because I think a few of us like me are falling behind typing along. So
don't worry, guys. If you have falling behind, don't really worry. I'll definitely release the recording, so don't worry. Maybe focus more about where you might not really feeling comfortable understanding. Just interrupt me. I think that'll be better.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you definitely want to isolate yourself to be silent, and then try to practice this. That'll be easier. Okay. All right. So Michael, since you actually spoke up, what should I do here?
I think Umar pointed out, but you need to do a for loop where you initialize both arrays to make result as assigned to the other array.
Let's say I do a for loop over here. What should be its upper bound? Should I say this dot? Should I say, for example, I is less than over here this dot records the array the length? Is that what I should do?
No, because then you have a null point exception.
Exactly. It's potentially, but in this case, you wouldn't really get. In this case, I'm just trying to copy everything over here into over here, right? So now you definitely don't want to go to the null slot. You're right. But whether to really get to the null pointer exception depends on whether you have a method call for that. Just be careful. Okay. All right. So you guys are right. I definitely need to say this.nor. If you're not sure about why I need to say this.nor, please check your lab 8. Oh, sorry, week number 8 Java tutorial. I should explain that in detail. Okay. Very good. So result at index I is assigned to this dot records at position I over here. All right. This will help. Okay. So guys, I think this method is actually defined completely. Okay, properly. Okay. And let me say it again. Let me emphasize. So I want you to compare the implementation here for get records against what you have for the get points in Trojan 1. You will see that the get points in Trojan 1 is more like a extended version for that in the following sense. Rather than copying every object in the array into the result array, you're trying to be selective. And to be selective and still return the right size for the array, you have to maintain another counter. So that's why it's really important for you to go over this one here. All right. Okay, so let's now go back to the test and let me just run it and see what will be the next one to fix. Right, number 6 is also done, right? So now I can go to number 7. You can see I also passed number 8 and also number 15. And something somewhere along later, right? Let me just go to the next one. Number 7. So now this one get amount due over here is basically about how you can, wow, guys, didn't we see something similar in your weekly tutorial, right? We also talk about get amount due, right? So this will be done in a very similar way, okay? Let's do it together. Get payment due, exactly, Michael. I forgot the name, but you might be right. Okay, will be very similar. So let me show you how to solve this. So get amount due, if you read the problem description over there, is basically to say, for example, let's say for this particular customer, let's say they got Americano, green tea latte, and also maybe some donut over here, right? And the unit price maybe is 2.5, maybe 3.0, and 2.7. And let's say you're purchasing maybe 3, purchasing maybe 2, purchasing maybe 1. And what will be the get amount due? You basically want to go over the array over here one by one. For each object, you want to retrieve the price and units, multiply them together. Retrieve this, multiply together, retrieve this, multiply, and then sum them up. Getting the sum, basically. Right? So it's very similar to the get payment due you actually learned in the tutorial video. Very similar. Let's do it together. And let's see how we can do it. Let's now go back to customer. So get amount due, right? So you can see after I completed step number 1 from previously, so I don't need to worry about declaration for methods anymore, right? There might be some rare occasions you want to define a helper method yourself, but you don't need to worry about it for this, okay? Okay, so get amount due. So I should really say, let's say double amount is simply 0. And then I would say for integer I is assigned to, let me just maximize it, 0, and then I is less than this number of records and then I++, right? And then let's be a little bit more careful here. So every elements in the array is going to be some record. And for every record, remind yourself over here, if let's remind together. You can see in the record, we actually can we can get the price and also quantity. So that's what we need, right? So the item over here, the name for the product is not going to be useful for our calculation. So we need to say for every record we are seeing, we need to invoke the get price and get quantity method on them to do the multiplication, right? Let's go back here. And then let's now move on to get amount due. So I would do this, we're doing this way. Let's say record R is simply assigned to this records. The current one we're looking at should be a index I, right? That's why I put I over here, right? I and I over here. And then I can say amount plus equal R dot get price multiply R dot get quantity. Right, so this will do the proper get payment due. It's very similar to what you did for the tutorial video. And Michael, before I answer your questions, I just want to run the test again to see if there's any more tests I have passed. Okay, I think for number 7, let's go back there. For number 7, there might be something I forgot, right? You can see here, I'm only supposed to get 0.0 over here. Let's see this. So Michael, did you want to say something? Unless you spotted something.
Oh, no. I just accidentally kept my hand raised.
Okay,
sorry.
sure, no problem. Okay, so we're still failing this. Okay, Allen pay after being initialized to be initial balance here. So it should be 0.0. That should be. Let's take a look at customer over here. Get amount due. Oh, sorry, forgot. This should be amount, right? Not -1 anymore. My bad. Yeah, I forgot to fix the return statement. Thank you. But be careful. You don't want to make this mistake. Thank you. Do it again. Okay, now we are past the first 9 already, right? Let's go to number 10. Number 10 is about deposit, right? This one seems to be rather conceptually simple in the following sense. When we create a customer without initializing their balance, it should be 0 to begin with. And then after depositing 200.0, they should their balance should become 200.0. So it's quite obvious what deposit should do. It should really increment the attribute balance by whatever amount over here. And a little bit hints to you, for your lab number 7, you might need this kind of method. Okay, just take a notes. Let me go to customer over here for deposit. This will be easy. Just say this dot balance plus equal the double amount, right? Rerun the test. Okay, so now we pass 10 as well. Let's go to 11. 11 over here is about getting the records over here. And then we want to make sure over here, let's see what's going on over here. Oh, I think what's really missing here, you can see so far we haven't really implemented add record just yet, right? We should really do it. Let's see if I did it already. Let's go to the customer. Add record, I haven't done that, right? So why don't we sort out these two? And these two should be very similar to what we did in the tutorial and the written notes. How would I add a record? I gotta say this dot records at position this dot NOR is assigned to R. This dot NOR plus plus. All right, like this. And Michael, if you don't mind, I will choose you as a victim to answer my question.
Oh, I don't like the sound of that.
Okay. So now for add record over here, I can, let me show you the more verbose version. I can say, for example, record R is assigned to new, create an object with all the sufficient information from the parameters SDI. And then I can say this dot records over here, this dot NOR, very similar, right? We also did this in the tutorial. It's assigned to R, and also this dot NOR plus plus. Michael, are you able to, or anybody, are you able to simplify the 3 lines into a single line?
Yes, you can. I think you could do record R is equal to, okay, well, I haven't worked out the specifics, but you can definitely call the first add record that you made.
Yeah, you want to call the method. Yes, I agree. You want to somehow call this method here. However, let's say this, right? If I want to call that method dot record, this dot add record. However, what should I pass over here? If I simply pass R over here, that means I still need 2 lines. Aha.
Yes.
Right? So there's something we learned in the lecture called anonymous objects, meaning objects without its addresses being stored somewhere. So we can inline the expression.
Oh, Yang's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, it's some lecture you're supposed to follow, please. The anonymous objects, right? Put it here. And that will be the simplest version. However, I'll leave the original verbose version over here just for your information. Okay. Like that. Okay. Very good. Let's and then add rec. We'll worry about this a little bit later. This one is also something later. Run it. All right. So we got 15 done, right? So let's now go to 16. 16 is about the get records over here. Oh, so we got to deal with this. So guys, I think that this might be worth thinking over here, right? This one here, let's read it together. We have created one customer over here, and then we actually got an array of orders, right? You can see this is the initializer expression, and then we're just passing some anonymous objects, right? That's something you're supposed to know. And then we're calling the add records. You can see the plural over here. So now rather than a single order, we are actually adding multiple orders, right? And of course, this array over here is only size 1, but in general, it can be of size 2, 3, 4, and etc. Right? It's a more general method we can do. And then after adding the records with an array of size 1, so that means after that, get records should be of size 1, basically, right? So now, how do we implement this method over here? By adding an array of order. Okay, I'll pause a little bit. It might be worth for you to think about. I'll pause a little bit. Anybody can work out some sketch of solution conceptually? How would you do it? Do you need to do it from scratch?
No, we don't have to. We can just loop through the parameter. Like
let me move it through first. Okay.
Yeah, look through the order.
Bear with me. Hold on, please. Okay. So we just want to make sure everybody can follow. Okay. I is initialized to be 0. I less than this. Actually, so now it should be orders length. I plus, right? And then what else?
Just to implement the add record from the previous.
Okay. So now let me just tell you this. Either you can do this. You can say this dot let me just split into a different step. Okay, we can say record R is assigned to this dot orders at position I. So that'll be the current order to be added in, like a record. I can say this dot records. And then this dot NOR is assigned to R. This dot NOR plus, right? You can see this part here is just the same as what you had to do for individual add order. However, is it possible to simplify these into something shorter? Is it possible?
Just invoke the previous method and put that record.
Yeah, you may just want to call that as a helper method, right? Okay, so guys, I'll keep this version here just for you. Okay. So alternatively, no, writing this is nothing wrong. Okay. Alternatively, you can say this dot add record over here, and then you can say orders at position I. So that's what you can do, right? You can see orders being an array of record. So that means every index is going to be an order object. So this will match the type for add record over here, which will take record. Okay. Let me.
But I also suggest there is one small detail you need to consider. The length of the record needs to be smaller than the maximum allowable.
I see what you mean. Very good. So I would say here in the actual test, I will let you know if you should really worry about the length of the array. I know what you mean. For example, let's say the maximum capacity is 30, right? So maybe the order is simply just 35. In that case, you just cannot add this much. So I think the assumption maybe somewhere in the problem I actually said that you can assume the orders is going to be not too long. But in the actual test, if I say you have to do some error handling, then you got to do it. But for now, let me put the assumption here.
Okay, that's a relief.
This is the NOR assumption plus orders dot length. It's going to be strictly less than, let's say less than or equal to 30, right? So I think that's what your concern is. All right, let's go back here and then let's now run the tests. Okay, well, you can see we are now just a few left over here, right? So guys, what I think so far, let me give you some observation over here. So in the actual test, you should not actually think about every problem you're supposed to solve from scratch. So that's why we actually gave you labs, we gave you tutorial videos, we gave you practice test. So presumably you should be familiar with solving similar problems. So as soon as you see the class you're asked to solve actually should store some collection, you would know you should really follow that particular programming pattern without thinking too much, right? So that's my observation. All right, let's now go to 23. Okay, get records larger than. Okay, this one is kind of interesting, but you can read the problem description. But let's see this here. Let's say so far we have added only one record into Allen, right? It's a Coke with a unit price and also the quantity, right? So in total, it's going to be something about, so if you do the multiplication, right? If you do the math, it's going to be something strictly less than 28. So what we're really trying to do is, let me show you the idea. Okay. For example, you can see here for this particular layout, for the Americano, we got 7.5 worth. That's a worth. So here we got 6.0. And here we got 2.7. So now if I say Allen dot get, let me something like get records larger than, right? If I say, for example, let's say 6.6, just put 6 over here. So what does that mean? That means I want to actually collect all the orders whose worth is actually strictly larger than 6. What should be collected? This one should be collected, not this one. 6 is not strictly larger than 6. And also collect this, oh, actually, sorry, let me say it again. So this one should not be collected. This one should not be collected either. So only this one should be collected. And then there should be some result array, which will contain only this particular order over here. Don't you see this is kind of similar to what we ask you to study in the written notes? It's basically the same problem, similar to if you want to find out what's the points in the quotient number 1. That's basically what you're going to do, right? So for this method here, I'm going to do it right now quickly together with you, but you should really study the get points in quotient 1. That's what you should really look at, right? So you want to selectively choose all the orders whose worth is actually strictly larger than 6 and then collect them together and then return. And you will need some intermediate counter as well. Let's now do this together, okay? Let me now go to, so now we're talking about get orders larger than, right? Let's go to customer, okay? I'll try to do whatever I can, maybe before 5:30. So we got 90 minutes for everybody, right? So now how do I do this one here? So this one here would be also referred to get points in quotient 1 in written notes. Okay, that's what you should do. Let's now try this. First of all, we should really go, I might have some integer counter. So this will actually count. Size of the return array. Okay, eventually. And let me just declare some temporary array. Record, and the maximum number that can be above this particular, it could be above this will be this NOR, right? That's something you can see. You can see that from the written notes. Okay. So record over here, we can say temp will be new record over here, this dot NOR. Okay, so that'll be the temporary array. And then we're actually going to go over the array, go over the records array. So for integer I is assigned to 0, let me just maximize it. I less than this dot nor I plus plus. And then we got to be selective, right? So we want to say if somehow the worth of the order, how do we calculate the worth? So if I'm currently looking at this particular order, I should really calculate by its price multiplied by its units or quantity. Let's say for each iteration I'm looking at, let's say record. R is new this dot records at position I. Okay, and then I'm going to say this: if R, the particular record I'm looking at, R dot get price multiplied by R dot get quantity, that'll be the worth for the order. If that is strictly larger than I, right? You can see the I is what I put over here as a parameter. If that's the case, I'm going to do the following. I'm going to say here temp at position count, right? I'm using the counter over here to tell me where to really store the object. That's really exactly how we did it for get points in Trojan 1. So you have to review that method. Okay.
Professor?
Michael, just give me one moment. I'll respond to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem. So count will be assigned to simply R and also count plus plus. Okay. Oh, yeah. Maybe, Michael, you were referring to this, I guess. Okay, another thing here, you can see here, we got I here, and we cannot have a loop counter I. It's a clash, right? So I would suggest to be better. So here we can change the parameter name since we now know better about what this is about. So this is really some amount we want to check against. Okay, and then over here, we can say larger than amount. Okay. And then after this, we now know exactly the size of the array for the return array. So now what we can do is we can say, again, record result is new record count over here. And then we can copy elements one by one over. Integer I, 0 I less than count I plus plus. And then we can now do result at position I is assigned to temp at position I. Right, this is something I wouldn't, okay, let me just say return, and then this is exactly the pattern that we illustrated in the lecture and also in your written notes about how you get the points for Trojan 1. Okay. All right, guys, any questions? Michael, if you guys still got questions.
Oh, no, I was just going to point out the ambiguity between the I variables.
Yeah. I think what I did was I simply changed the name of the parameter, which I initially called I. So it's up to you. You can leave it as I, but you just have to rename the loop counter to be J. It's kind of up to you. Okay. Let me go back to the tests and see if this might help. All right, pretty good. So now you can see I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more. Okay. 27. So this is about get customer, right? You'll be very, very similar, get customer, right? So now we are moving on to the shop, okay? I would say for the shop, we are also going to apply the similar pattern, okay? Let me just do that. So if I go to shop, so I think I can finish this test together with you. I might just run over maybe 5 minutes or so, okay? We can finish that. So the shop is going to also apply the similar programming pattern. So the shop is going to store a list of customers. You will see the problem description over there. And then just to remind ourselves, it's going to be up to 100 customers according to the problem, right? So I can go back to the shop and then I can go to private and then customers, customer array, customers. And then private integer number of customer over here. Okay, so let's say constructor over here, right? So when we actually initialize for this particular programming pattern, we should at least initialize these two attributes. So I can say this dot customers will be new. Okay, it should be 100, right? You can see from the problem description. We can do this explicitly. It's assigned to 0. And now we should do add customer. That should be very standard practice, right? So now we can simply say this dot customers at position this dot number of customer is really assigned to C, and also this dot NOC plus plus. All right. And then what do we get? How do we get a customer, right? Very similar to how we get the records. Very similar. Let's say customer result new customer this dot number of customer over here, and then we're just going to do copy, right? Eventually we want to return the result, and we're going to do a very similar loop as we did before. For integer I is assigned to 0 I strictly less than this dot NOC number of customer I plus plus. Then we do the same copy, right? So result at position I is assigned to this dot customers at index I, like that. All right, that's what we like how we did it before. Let's now rerun the tests over here. So now I got 3 more. Okay, let's go to 30. This one seems to be we want to make sure we can. I think what's missing here, you can see we already implemented add customer. It seems like we haven't really implemented pay over here, right? How do we pay? So we want to basically search through. So we want to search through the customers array in the shop, and then we want to pay for a particular customer, right? So this is also very similar to what you did for the weekly tutorial videos. Can anyone tell me what this is? How is this similar to one of the methods you did for the tutorial videos? Tutorial video number 8 specifically. Anybody can tell me? Get title? Not quite. Oh, this pay over here, not get title. Let's say given the course, given the name of a course, you want to somehow you want to set the marks for particular students into for their marks, right? I think it's more like a set marks that you did in the tutorial videos. You can look it up. I just want to show get marks or set marks. Okay, so this one here, let me just mention that very quickly. What we should do for this particular one, right? So you can think about basically the online shop. I mean the coffee shop problem we are solving. You can think about, let me just redraw this diagram quickly, okay? You can think about the shop is really pointing to some shop objects, the blue. And then that one there actually got the customers, I'll say CS. And that one there is actually going to point to an array of customers, okay? An array of customers, etc. And let's say for the customer, so this will be the shop. Let's say this one here is pointing to some customer over here. And the customer also got an array of records, right? Records. And that one there is going to be an array of some records up to 30, right? Etc. And then each one of them is going to store some record. And the record, for example, Americano, and also maybe 2.0, let's say 2.3, and also 4, right? It can be as many records as you like. So basically the pay, when we say shop dot pay, and let's say for this particular customer, the name is simply just Alan. Let's say. So we want to say we want to pay for Alan for all the amount that's due for Alan. That's basically what you want to do. Okay. Now, how do we do it? Basically, you have to go over the array of the customers, and then you want to find out for each customer object you're iterating through, make sure you got a matching name as the parameter, pretty much like how you set the marks for particular students. And then once you get to this particular customer, how can you work out the amount that's due to pay for that particular customer? And we have done this method already previously. So you can just call that method to really figure out what will be the amount due for that particular customer. That's what you would do. All right. And then another thing to mention quickly, since the pay is actually going to decrease the balance for the customer, right? If you go back to the customer class over here, you can see under the customer, we already got, let's see this. We already got deposit. However, deposit is only going to add the value. So we need just another method, even though not required by the JUnit test, but it could be useful for our purpose for implementation. So I can simply put public void, maybe withdraw, right? The opposite concept. So double D. Okay, this balance minus equal D. All right, so that'll be the method. You can call it whatever you like, right? This one is not so required by the JUnit test, but it will help later. Let me go back to the shop over here. So now how do I implement this pay over here? Okay, let me just get to that. Basically, I need to, it's mutator method, right? So I need to say for integer I is assigned to 0, I less than this dot number of customer I++. And let's work out how to implement this method over here a bit, okay? The current customer I'm looking at will be here. The current customer, let's say C, is assigned to this dot customers at index I. And then as soon as the name equals to the name over here, so what should we write over here? So we should really say if C, the current customer we're looking at, dot get name over here, and if the name dot equals, right, we talk about dot notation as well. And then it should be, if that's equal to the parameter name over here, so now we find a matching case. And then what should we do now? That means we should really pay for that particular customer, right? How do we pay? C dot withdraw. All right, and now how much should we withdraw from the customer? Anybody?
Take the amount from get amount due.
Get amount due, right? Exactly. So if you're thinking about to simply just go over the list, well, you might be thinking that why can I not just do another loop over here to say I will go over the list of orders of this particular customer and add up the amount due, right? You can do that, but it will be unnecessary because you already implemented that particular method. Let me remind you. It's exactly over here. Let me just show it to you. Get amounts due, right? That's a method we just did. You can just call this, right? Let me go back here. And then I can say here, C dot get amount due. That's what we can do here. All right, okay. And then let me just go back here and run the tests. And let's see what happened. Okay, we are still failing 2 tests over here. Let's see. Let's go to 31. Guys, I think this is interesting here. You can see this. Basically, when you read over the test, right? Let's read this together, right? We'll try to wrap up within 5 minutes. We created one order. We got customer Alan, and Alan has added 2 orders into his their array of orders, and then we got another customer Mark, right? And then we try to deposit $200 into Mark, and then we got a shop. So now for this shop, we got 2 customers, Mark and Alan, right? And then we simply say we want to pay for Alan, and also we want to pay for Mark. Okay. After, let's say for Alan, for example, you can see Alan already put the order Diet Coke and also green tea latte. So after paying these, we are expecting to say after paying Alan, that get records should somehow be initialized back to empty array. So that kind of map to the real sense, right? So after you have paid all your existing order, those orders should be reset back to empty, basically, right? But that's why you're expecting to see this to be simply 0, the return array. So if you see the problem description over here, you can also see that. Let me see if I can find that for you. Yeah, you can see this line here. given the customer name, if it exists, pay for that particular customer's current records by deducting their balance. So that's really suggesting you should do something like withdraw and clearing their charge orders accordingly. So when I say clearing, I really meant you should really clear that particular array. Let me go back there. So that means after this particular pay over here, I should really try to initialize like pretty much like initialize like this. That's what I should do, right? So I can simply copy these two lines and put them there. So what this is doing is, so now customers is now going to point to, for example, so now let's say this, if I say this, so that means customer array rather than pointing to the existing order, since we have pay already, so it's now going to point to just another new array over here. 0, 1, all the way to 29. And then also reset the number of records to be 0. That's basically what we're doing, right? That's how you clear the order. All right. And then let's now rerun the tests. Let's see what we have over here. I'll get records over here. Let's see, did I actually set it properly? So after I said pay, and this dot, oh, I got it. Guys, sorry, I did something very wrong. It's actually good to realize this. I said that you should really do basically reassign the array for the records, right? What I just did, it might be nice, I make this mistake, you just be careful. What I just did, I actually reassign this particular array to another customer's array. That's completely wrong, right? When I pay for Alan, I should only reset the array for Alan only. I shouldn't reset the whole shop array. That's something I did very wrong, okay? So guys, do you follow me? I hope, right? When you rewatch the video, hopefully you can also appreciate this error over here I just made. It's not intentional. So what I should do now is I can do the following, okay? I would suggest we do this. Go to customer, I can define some helper method over here. I can say public void clear for this particular customer. I can just paste it, I can just paste the 2 lines. That's from the constructor. I can just reinitialize these 2, the records and also the NOR, right? So now I'm really indeed trying to do this particular reassign just for this particular customer, its array, rather than just entire shop, which is completely wrong, right? All right, so now if I go back to the shop, so now I can say, after withdrawing for the customer, so I'll say c dot clear, right? So I'm just calling the helper method here, right? And then let me go back to the tests. Wow, 32. Everything's done. So guys, I know I'm running over time. However, I'll be happy to take any question you might have so I can answer that before I call it a day. Yeah, Michael, you're right. I think, guys, if you're watching the recording right now, I think you'll be really important, again, to really understand. Let me put the notes over here. Question. Why is it wrong if we clear by saying this dot customers is assigned to customers 100, followed by this dot number of customer is assigned to 0. Why is that, right? You gotta visualize it. Yeah, I'm going to make the source code available to you after the test, after the session. It's gonna be fine. Yeah. All right, guys. Any more questions?
Oh, Professor?
Yeah, Michael.
Wait, you said you're going to make the source code available?
You know what? Let me have a second thought over here. You know what? I think it will be very important for you to really follow through the process over here. I don't think I should just make the source code available for you. That's actually not very efficient for your learning. So I think you should really follow through the solution together with my explanation and then type it out, right? I think that'll be better.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think that'll be better, really. Yeah.
Hi, Professor.
Yes.
Could you please put the record in our eClass website after this meeting in session?
Yes, I just need some time to maybe get a process, and then I will have some light supper myself, and then I'll come back for that. So you can maybe later this evening you can expect to hear from me.
Could you please put any sooner because?
Sorry, can I?
Could you please put it any sooner?
Sorry, I don't quite follow your last sentence. Can I put any?
Could you put any sooner you can?
Yeah, I will try. I just need to have some something quickly to eat, if you don't mind. I'll try to get back to you by 8 p.m. if you allow me to eat, please.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, you should be hearing back from me hopefully by 8 p.m. Hopefully, if not sooner.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Now, guys, any more questions for me? Guys, I think if you really realize this is kind of challenging, but you can still follow through what I'm doing here. I think it's really good for you to get over prepared, right? I think that's really better. Rather than giving you something very simple and giving you the wrong expectation for the test, I think that'll be better, right? All right. Now, guys, any more questions?
I have a
I'm
really
willing to stay a
quick
little bit longer.
question.
Yes.
Sorry. In the get records larger than method in
Yeah.
customer,
Yeah.
you know how it says so in the if statement where it says it has to be greater than amount.
Yeah.
Where are we getting that amount from?
Oh, the amount over here, that's a
Oh.
parameter.
So it's pointing back. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the amount is actually simply whenever if you can look at that. Okay. I forgot which test it is, but we can. Oh, here, for example, when you use that method, you will say larger than and then 20, right? So that's whoever is using the method, they must pass this argument.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense to you?
Well, so in the statements above,
This one here?
you know how we're using no, never mind. I think it's okay. I think I get it now.
No problem. So guys, I would say, yeah, I'll make the recording as soon as I finish the supper. Now that I get your permission. And then I'm actually going to open the floor again on Monday. So for the Q&A, for the normal Q&A. So feel free to ask me any questions related to the recording for the part of the solution, right? I think that'll be very nice. All right.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So guys, have a good weekend. And then if you got any trouble, ask me on Monday. I'll be happy to help. All right, take care. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. Bye-bye.